Alright, so this is a quick correction to the video lesson over 2.3, the second page. The problem over the ACT scores in Oklahoma's. I subtracted incorrectly. Apparently nobody noticed last semester. But all of the numbers were right. The only difference is they all should be negative. You should always take the value you're comparing minus your reference value. And so in the ACT and Oklahoma National, this is the same that's true for the online homework, the Achieve homework, is the national average is what we're using as a reference. And again, I've stated it there. And in the second part, it's clear that it's the average because it's what we're comparing to. It should make sense. I'm going to compare the state's average to the national average. And so when you're doing the comparison, you should always subtract by your reference value. And I did that opposite here. So this should always be, again, so we're comparing the Oklahoma City, the state, minus the national ACT average. And so it should be the Oklahoma City minus the national. All right, and then when we get to the percentage difference, you divide by your reference point. So you take your difference, Oklahoma minus the national, divided by the national, which is your reference point. So again, these values should always be your reference values, right? So Oklahoma City is what we're comparing to the national. So you take your Oklahoma City minus the national. All right, that gets you the difference, the comparison. And then when you find the percent difference, you take the Oklahoma City ACT minus the national divided by the national, and then we'll multiply by 100 to make it a percentage. All right, so find the difference between each of the scores. So we'll start with the composite first. So the composite. So we take the Oklahoma City ACT, which is the orange, right, the composite, and subtract away the national, which is the green. So it should be the 20.5, the Oklahoma City average for ACTs, minus the 21.5, and so for the composite, it should have been a negative 0.6. The Oklahoma City average, ACT average, was 0.6 lower than the national average for the composite part of the test. All right, now the English. So again, we'll take the Oklahoma City value, which was 20.3, minus the national value for the English ACT portion of the test. And so again, English was a little closer. It comes out negative 0.3, but it is negative because the Oklahoma City average for the ACT in English is 0.3 points lower than the national average for English at the ACT level. All right, then the last is the math, and the math is the wider gap. And just looking at the picture, you can tell that it's a wider percentage. And so the math scores, you'll take the Oklahoma City, which was 19.7, was the ACT average for Oklahoma, minus the national or reference value, 20.8, and so it came out negative 1.1. The Oklahoma City average was 1.1 points lower than the national average. Now you can still say it the other way like I did in the original lesson. The national average was 1.1 point higher than the Oklahoma City. All right, and so when we do the percentage, remember it's the amount, so what we're comparing, it's the comparison. So compare minus the reference divided by the reference, right? These should both be reference values times our 100%. All right, so for English, composite first. Composite. It should have been negative 0.6 divided by our reference value for English, which was our 21.5 times our 100%, which should have come out negative 2.84. Alright, that's the composite. Now the English should have been negative 0.3 divided by 20.6 times our 100%, which should have been a negative 1.46. And then math, it should have been a negative 1.1 divided by 20.8 times our 100%, which should have come out negative 5.29. All right, again, they all come out, in this case, and it's just this case, All right, when the value we're comparing is smaller than our reference value, it should come out negative. So again, the Oklahoma ACT scores were all less than the national average ACT score. So the composite ACT score, I forgot my percents, for Oklahoma City was 2.84% less than the national average. English scores were a little closer. The Oklahoma City ACT scores was 1.46 less than the national average. And the math scores for Oklahoma City were 5.29% less than the national average. All right, so again, on the homework, it's the same way as all the values will come out negative because you're comparing the state to the national average. So again, I apologize for any confusion this may have caused, but this one corrected. All right, we'll stop the video there.